Calaroga Shark Media.
Hello, I'm Johnny Mac with your daily comedy news. You can hear my voice. Thank you, Johnny MacBot, for filling in yesterday. I'll try and muddle through here, but that's why I use the AI. I'll talk about that later in the show. A lot going on today. Let's start on Gossip Corner. Boy, I sound horrible, huh? Jimmy Fallon fans think Jimmy perhaps was perhaps hungover at the Thanksgiving Day parade. Why? It was very rainy in New York on Thanksgiving morning, and Jimmy was wearing sunglasses. At one point, Jimmy was walking with an umbrella saying, "Rain or shine, you got to get out here." Everybody still out here cheering despite the downpour. It's the best holiday. Someone on social media said he was definitely hungover. Here's a clip of Fallon with Al Roker. You don't have the visual here, but picture a very handsome Jimmy Fallon in like Wayfarer-type glasses. And let's see how jovial he seems to you.
Oh, well, I think you know who's that behind those four.
I got you.
It's Jimmy Fallon, ladies. Jimmy Fallon.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. This is your 11th parade, my man.
Is that right?
Can you believe that?
This sounds like more than Andy Williams.
Yes.
I'm hitting
absolutely.
that. I'm hitting that mark.
That's right. He's going to sing Moon River, and it's going to be fantastic.
We've been through this together through rain.
Snow,
freezing,
sun,
snow,
everything.
COVID, we were here.
Oh my gosh!
Remember that?
But here we are now.
This is the best.
So,
the vibe here is so good, even in the rain.
Look at these pants too.
Yeah,
come on.
Yeah,
you are Mr. Holiday.
This is what I'm talking about.
Chortle does not like Ricky Gervais's new show. Chortle writes, "We know the choreography of this dance now. I'm supposed to call Ricky Gervais out for being cruel and offensive, adding to the woke liberal outcry against him, hence burnishing his credentials as a bold free speech warrior. But that's a simplification. There are some good jokes here, even those that cross the line, provided that you take him at face value. He's not fermenting hate. Given how far from being canceled the #1 stand-up comic on Netflix is, the culture war angle might be artificial, but it gives mortality a sense of purpose that the much-ignored theme of the title certainly doesn't. However, the impact is muted by a tendency to over-justify his gags and focus on the reactions he expects to get from his naughtiness, rather than just plow on with the jokes. Away from this, his observations can be pretty trite. He claims Mortality is the most personal and confessional show that he's ever done, but quickly adds, not in an Edinburgh Fringe way. He wants to be a man of the people, separating himself from the pretentious stereotype of the festival, even though hundreds of Fringe shows are better than this. Yet for his claims about opening up, there's very little that's personal here, other than reminding us he was a working class before he became moneyed, and a bit of meditation on aging. Even in a relatively short show, about 75 minutes, he runs out of steam. At the end, spoilers, he recounts trying to get a mischievous gag past the lawyers into his Golden Globes monologues, which is a decent chat show anecdote, but seems a stretch for stand-up. And the closer, spoilers, is about the football chant Sir Elton John used to endure during the 1980s about his sexuality. But here's Gervais, 40 years later, generating cackles, largely his own, out of, quote, backs against the wall, unquote, type jokes. He may be mocking how silly it is, but the laughs essentially come from the same sentiment. It's childish and dated at worst, low-level homophobia at worst. Chortle wraps up with, Gervais can be better than this. That he chooses not to says a lot. Ricky was on the Stick to Football podcast and said, I don't go out there and just say the first thing that comes to my head, thinking there are no consequences. I don't do that, so I have to be able to justify it. Everything I do, I've got to be able to go, that's why it's okay. A lot of my stuff, because we're dealing with taboo subjects, seems worse than it actually is. If you analyze it, it's not that bad. It's just because you're dealing with contentious subjects and buzzwords, and when people gasp, if you look at the jokes, it's fine. I'll tell you, over the weekend, Jim Gaffigan's social media was bothering me. I guess this is part of the Hulu deal. On Thanksgiving and on Black Friday, Jim's social media had devolved into either watch my special or sign up for Hulu. I feel like your social media has to be a mix of, obviously, promotional stuff. I promote my stuff on social media, totally get it. But you have to mix in some personal stuff. And Jim's account had just devolved into, hey, watch my stand-up special, and hey, sign up for Hulu. And I assume that's part of the big marketing deal with Hulu. I get it. But Jim, you could wish us a happy Thanksgiving in between selling us stuff. It's not a good look, bro. Lot of articles about Joe Rogan. On Thanksgiving, Joe dropped a 4-hour podcast, which features Shane Gillis, Mark Normand, and Ari Shaffir. I haven't had a chance to listen to it at the time of this recording. I started to listen to it Thanksgiving night as I was drifting off to sleep, and it was just going to be too loud. So I held off on it, and 4 hours is a lot. Great guests, right? Mark Normand, Shane Gillis, Ari, Joe Rogan. That's great. Anyway, on that episode, Newsweek reports that Rogan claims he invited Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky to come on the show. Very interesting. I'd listen to the heck out of that. On his podcast, Rogan discusses the possibility of a war with Russia and said, I don't really think Putin's that stupid. I think he's going to realize what's going on, and I think they're probably working this out. Rogan then said Zelensky tried to come on. His guest seemed shocked, and he says, they tried to get Zelensky on. I was like, what are you talking about? So I'm a little confused there. I'll have to listen to that myself. You know what? Let me see if I can pull the clip. Hang on.
No, Zelensky tried to come on.
Whoa!
Yeah, they tried to get Zelensky on. I was like, what are you talking about?
When you get an offer for somebody, they must come at your bookers or whatever.
Uh-huh.
Do you like stop and like, hold on, let me think about this, whether I want to be part of the story 100%. Or not, whether it'll be interesting or not?
Well, I wanted to stay out of the presidential election because it's gross. Because I feel like I had to. I feel like this is so nuts. This is so nuts. When that Tim Walz guy... it's so nuts that guy was going to be the vice president. You're telling me, you're telling me this whole thing's fake then. You're telling me you don't care if someone's a liar. You don't care if they lied about their military rank, where they served. You don't care if they lie about being an assistant. You don't care if they lie about Tiananmen Square. There's too many things. This is so crazy.
Back on the November 22nd episode, Joe had said Zelensky says Putin is terrified. F you, man. F you people. You people are about to start World War III. A lot of talk about the Democrats needing the liberal Joe Rogan. That whole notion to me is so funny here. Rogan said, I think these Call Her Daddy podcast shows and all these different shows that Harris went on, I mean, I'm sure they had an impact, but I think that in the future, I'm sure they're scrambling to try and create their own version of this show. Some people point out that Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2020. That's not that long ago, so maybe the liberal Joe Rogan was Joe Rogan. Meanwhile, in Australia, a big controversy, the Australian Broadcasting Corporation chairman Kim Williams said, I think people like Mr. Rogan prey on people's vulnerabilities. They prey on fear, they prey on anxiety, they prey on all the elements that contribute to uncertainty in society. I personally find it repulsive. And to think that someone has such remarkable power in the United States is something that I look at in disbelief. That did not go over well. Speaking of Shane Gillis, Tires is coming back for a second season. Thomas Hayden Church has joined the cast in season 2 of Tires after the unexpected success of their big marketing idea. Will and Shane rush to grow personally and professionally without fully realizing the cost of doing business. Thomas Hayden Church will play Phil, who is Shane's wealthy but immature father, a grown-up version of Shane. Phil enjoys owning various businesses in Florida where he resides, throwing back margaritas and flirting with waitresses. I liked season 1 of Tires a lot. I think since it's been on, Shane has become only even more popular, and Stavi has become more popular. So season 2 of that will probably do really well. No date yet. So you hear my voice, which is why I had the Johnny MacBot host yesterday. Again, I'm not trying to trick you guys. I'm not going to get lazy. I'm not going to start having the AI host the show. But I think if you listen to the front end of Sunday and you hear me today, that's what that was about. So how did I do it? I trained the AI on 4 different scripts of this show and 3 hours of audio to both teach it how I speak, both sonically, but also my cadence and the types of words I use. So I had my normal script that I write, and I put it into the AI, and I made some tweaks here and there to make it sound more like me, and I thought it came out pretty good. I mean, if you pay a lot of attention, it's obviously not actually me, but if you're half listening, it totally works. So in a pinch, I'm glad I have that. Since I started this podcast 5 years ago, I was always wondering what happens if I get COVID. I don't have COVID, took a COVID test. This is just like this bronchial thing. I wake up every morning, I feel like I swallowed a knife, and I've lived in fear of like, well, what if I can't do the show? And I've always, when I feel healthy, I have extra episodes, and I still have those extra episodes that I've just, they're like the top 15 comedians of all time, my thoughts on that, and they're just sitting there for a rainy day. But now that I have this new technology, I'm like, oh, okay, there are options. So that's what that's about. I'm not going to do it all the time. I'm not going anywhere, but you hear how I sound. Out on Netflix today, Fortune Feimster's new special, Crushing It. She shares stories from her life, including her romantic honeymoon with her wife and her reflections on no longer being her mom's surrogate husband. I thought the trailer was really strong. Let's listen.
So something happened when I met Jax that I did not expect. My mom got a little jealous. Yeah, I remember if I would buy Jax something like a scarf, my mom would be like, I like scarves. I'm like, you're not my girlfriend. Their birthdays are 5 days apart, which is my nightmare. I get heart palpitations in February. I remember early on in my relationship, it was very popular to go on Facebook and profess your love for whoever you were with. So Jax's birthday, I go on Facebook, I'm like, I love you so much. You're the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. I I posted like 30 pictures in a collage that took 5 hours to put together. 5 days later, I call my mom. Hey, Mom, happy birthday. Thank you. Are you okay? I'm fine. Well, what are you doing? I'm on Facebook. I was looking at my messages, and I don't see one from you, and I know your thumbs work because you used them 5 days ago. I sent you an edible arrangement. What is this? And she was pissed. So I had to unfriend her.
And since I sound like crap, let's wrap this up a little bit early. From late nighter Craig Ferguson had Richard Kind on the Ferguson podcast. Richard Kind said, once you're off TV a year later, they don't know you. Ferguson agreed that used to be true until the internet created a whole new repeat structure for old shows. I still get people come to the shows who clearly were never old enough to watch me when I was doing the show, and they say, I watch you on YouTube. I'm like someone who does a YouTube channel. And that's it for my voice, and that's your comedy news for today. See you tomorrow.